son Wukong, is dead. The once mighty victorious fighting Buddha, the great sage equal to heaven, son Wukong. Now, he's nothing more than a soulless husk. But make no mistake, his death was not the end. It was the beginning of something far greater. With his sacrifice, Wukong set a plan in motion, a grand scheme that entangles gods, Buddhas, and Yaogua alike. If he succeeds, he will break free from the shackles of being a mere pawn, and rise as one of the players standing against Mount Lingshan and the Celestial Court. And to understand how it all began, we must go back to the day when 4 travelers returned from their journey to the west.
Soon, Wukong, for your contribution, I now bestow upon you the title of Victorious Fighting Buddha.
One day, after ascending to Buddhahood, Wukong called Bajia for a drink. They drank again and again until the wine had settled deep in their bones. Then, out of nowhere, Wukong turned to Bajia and said, "This title Victorious Fighting Buddha. I don't want it. Whoever wants it, they can have it." Bajia was stunned, just like us. Why? Why would he give up being a Buddha? Just like that. To answer that, we need to talk about something crucial in the world of black myth. Something fundamental. You've seen it before. Every time we defeat an enemy, those tiny green lights drift into the air. That is will, as the texts say. The cosmos begets life, and life begets will. This amorphous essence delights all and serves as a currency across realms. And in the portraits of Jai Shigondan, it is written, "He devoured all the will in the surrounding mountains, leaving the flowers to wither, the leaves to fall, and no living thing left to survive." Will is the foundation of immortality. Will is the key to eternity. But think about it. Where does all this will come from? Do you remember what we talked about in chapter 4? About the Queen Mother's blood-stained factory. The 100-eyed Taoist master lured mortals with false promises of divinity. He led them to train, to cultivate their power. And when they were ripe, when their bodies and souls had matured, he brought them to Purple Cloud Mountain, forced them to consume violet hail, turning them into Yaoguai. Then their will was extracted, fed into golden threads, woven into an endless stream, flowing straight to the heavens. This is how the gods and Buddhas consume will. But they wanted more than just immortality. They needed power. They needed strength. And for that, they needed elixirs. Elixirs require more than just will. They need mind cores. As the ancient texts say, no one knows how many hours of meditation was spent, how many years of trials endured, or how many times yin and yang were combined to refine this inner elixir, this sacred relic. And that mind core, it is the essence of a powerful Yaogua, the proof of their cultivation. But have you ever stopped to wonder, how do Yaoguai cultivate? Look at the portraits of Tiger's acolyte. That tiger said, "I am wounded. If I could feast on the flesh of the living, restore my divine power, I could finally cure your child's illness." Do you see it now? This is a pyramid at the top. The gods and Buddhas sitting high above all. In the middle, the great Yaoguai fighting for scraps. And at the bottom, the mortals, countless, ordinary, powerless, the very foundation of this entire structure. And Wukong saw it all. He understood the truth. He saw how each layer feeds upon the one below it. So he turned to Bajir and asked, "You drink your wine and feel happy. But what if one day someone drinks you? Would you still be so happy then?" He saw the truth, that the great Yaoguai were nothing more than gloves for the gods and Buddhas to wear. So he asked Bajia again, "Do you remember? Back on our journey to the west, we fought many Yaogua, but we only killed half of them. The other half we left untouched. Do you know why? Because he saw the truth, that the gods and Buddhas atop the pyramid produce nothing. They take, they consume, while the mortals at the bottom toil and suffer. So he said to Bajia, the offerings should have gone to those who tilled the land and harvested the crops, but we took them instead. And because of that, they had less to eat. Because he was the great sage equal to heaven. Because he was son Wukong. And that is why he could never sit on that throne."
Immortality? For that word, all realms and beings have ruined themselves.
After leaving, he renounced his position at Mount Lingshan. But, like I said back in chapter 5, whether it's the Celestial Court or Mount Lingshan, neither would ever allow a Yaoguai of such immense power to break free from their control. And so, the first siege was set in motion. This time, only a Lang led the celestial army. A siege? Not really. It was more of an attempt to persuade him, to convince him to give up, to return, and to continue being the victorious fighting Buddha. And let's be honest, the Celestial Court and Mount Lingshan knew all too well about the history between Erlang and Wukong. They wanted Wukong to see it with his own eyes. Erlang, the once unrivaled war god, had submitted obedient, unquestioning, and they wanted Wukong to ask himself, "Are you still clinging to this hopeless dream?" But this time, Wukong was serious. Yet, the Celestial Court and Mount Lingshan didn't care, because in that moment of defiance, Wukong made a horrifying discovery. The tightening headband was still there. Even after becoming a Buddha, even after shedding his past, it had never truly been removed. Mount Lingshan had never loosened its grip on him.
If you become a Buddha, that headband has always been on your head.
His entire plan was thrown into chaos, because he knew as long as the tightening headband remained, he would forever be bound to Mount Lingshan, with no chance of ever breaking free. So, he fled back to Mount Wagwa, searching for a way out. The first priority: remove the tightening headband. But as long as this body existed, it would never come off. There was only one way. His body had to perish. And so, the plan was set into motion. A grand, breathtaking scheme, so intricate and vast it would shake the heavens. The great sage's return had begun. Wukong faked his own defeat, allowing his body to dissipate, scattering his eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind across the universe. Quick tip: why do these 6 remain even after the body is gone? It's a Buddhist concept. The 6 roots: the eye sees, the ear hears, the nose smells, the tongue tastes, the body feels, the mind thinks. These are everything a person has left beyond the physical form. And, as the old monkey said, heaven and earth would naturally give birth to a worthy successor, a new being to inherit not just his power, but his very name. Because Wukong was not just an individual, he was the intelligent stone monkey. And if the intelligent stone monkey dies, the world will simply create another. This was the Destined One. And that's where you come in. Yes. You, the player, are the Destined One. Born from stone. No tightening headband. No past. A pure, untouched beginning. And the great sage's return. It was all to ensure that the new Wukong would inherit everything. But the most crucial piece was the mind. Because the mind was the core of Wukong's rebellion. Without it, Wukong might once again be shackled by the tightening headband, becoming the Celestial Court's most powerful pawn. And, as the old monkey said, the mind is the most essential of the 6 roots. It is the unique essence of every living being. And because of that, it dies when the body dies, unless someone powerful enough, someone with godlike strength and the unshakable will to defy the Celestial Court, could preserve the mind. That person was Erlang, the sacred divinity. And from the perspective of the Celestial Court and Mount Lingshan, all they had to do was make one small adjustment, ensure the new Wukong never regains the mind. If they could do that, they'd have a new, obedient Wukong ready to serve. And so, the Destined One project was born. At its core, it was no different from the Great Sage's return. The only difference, would the Destined One obtain a mind or not? To ensure that his plan would continue for centuries after his death, Wukong needed an executor. Someone close to him, someone tied deeply to the Celestial Court, someone who couldn't be erased so easily. And there was only one person who fit that role. Teng Sanzang, or rather, Jin Chansi. So, if the old monkey was the true executor of both these plans, then his real identity was Jin Chansi. By now, I think you understand the Great Sage's return and the Destined One project. But let me ask you, what is Wukong's true goal? Once the tightening headband is gone, what does he intend to do? Some say, obviously, he'll rebel against the Celestial Court. And then, what? Will he overthrow all the gods and take the throne himself? Will he wipe out every celestial being? Personally, I don't think so. The only real possibility, Wukong will gather his supporters and rise as a force strong enough to challenge both the Celestial Court and Mount Lingshan. And for the first time, he won't be a pawn on the chessboard. He'll be a player, the third wielder of power alongside the Jade Emperor and the Buddha. But unlike them, Wukong's faction will stand for the people, for the mortals, for the ones trampled by the so-called gods. And to achieve that, Wukong can't do it alone. That's why the Great Sage's return has one more hidden objective, to reveal who is friend and who is foe. And as the final pieces fell into place, the Celestial Court launched their second siege, just like they did to Bull King before. Kneel, or we will break you. But Wukong no longer cared. After staging a dramatic battle with Erlang, he surrendered on his own. Erlang, keeping his promise, used his third eye to extract Wukong's mind, then scattered the remaining pieces among the 5 demon kings, turning them into the forging stones that would empower the Destined One. And so, both the Great Sage's return and the Destined One project began their final act. One after another, the Destined Ones were born, retracing the path of the journey to the west, seeking the lost 6 roots of the Great Sage. And now, every eye in the 3 realms is on you. The fate of Wukong's grand design rests in your hands. Now, your final test begins, and Wukong himself is that test. He needs to see for himself what kind of successor you truly are, and when you prove yourself to him, even as he fades into nothingness, he laughs, because his plan is now halfway complete. A new Wukong is rising, one forged from the will of millions, and the rest of the journey is up to us. We will take his power, his spirit of defiance, and once again, we will shatter the celestial court. We will break through Mount Lingshan. We will forge a new order. And this time, we are not alone. We still have them.
The Zodiac deities never hold back. You're far below him. Train well before...
Where do you come from, outsider? In my realm, all monkeys are of similar face and shape. Your face speaks of a different breed, and an ugly one. You must be a Yao Guai from another land.
And only now do I understand that fight. No prestige can shackle him. No band can keep him caged. A mortal death for an unbound mind and will. May you not fail him.
They say you are the Destined One. But if destiny is set, what difference do our actions make?